can you see this person's perspective, but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Yes, we cannot stay victims. I'm Devon O'Day.
I am Teri Pugh. It's good to see you.
Oh, we are so glad that we are here again. We had Steve Rame as our special guest last week, and thanks to him, a lot of people got to learn a little bit about what hypnotherapy is about.
Nice.
And today, you sent me this wonderful text in the morning, and it made me laugh out loud. So I knew that we needed to talk about this: peace in the planning and joy in the journey, and we're gonna get into that.
And there you have it, right? In a nutshell.
Welcome. Wherever you are, click subscribe. If you're on Transcending Turbulence, that is our homepage for this show. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
You. She's our Miss Congeniality. We are always glad that she's here. And if you are joining us and you'd like to invite somebody to be a part of our noon launch date show, that is every Wednesday at noon. And we're just glad to have you here.
Absolutely.
Well, Teri, you kick things off, and let's talk a little bit about the word acceptance. Has never been the thing that I have not gravitated to that word, because that's going, well, I'm just going to accept whatever life comes. I'm just going to accept it. It just doesn't sound good. There's no joy in acceptance. You have a different spin on how it is to embrace the things that come along as we get older. Let's just face it, people, men and women, and we start the negative talk and the criticism.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How as changes start to happen.
Yes. I have noticed some changes in myself. Well, here's the thing. Society would have us believe that acceptance is like you just said, Devon, acceptance means I just got to deal with it. I don't have a choice in the matter, so I just have to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't just have to be okay with it. You can just accept it. Let's be real. As we age, society says one thing. Well, first we see all these commercials with women with beautiful gray hair and distinguished men. And it's like, as you age, take control of your life. And it's like, this is fantastic. But what do we do individually? We look in the mirror and we're like, oh my gosh, like when did I get this turkey neck? And where are these wrinkles coming from? And why can't I laugh without peeing on myself? There's all these things, right? Mm-hmm. We have a choice to look at those and go, oh, I'm just getting older. What am I going to do? It is what it is. Or you can embrace everything about yourself and know that, you know what, maybe you have smile wrinkles because you've laughed an awful lot in your life. Maybe you pee on yourself when you laugh too hard because you've had a child. And, maybe you've got that gray hair and maybe you can rock the crap out of it. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be real with you. I color my hair. My hair comes from a box, okay? But here's the deal. I have got some massive gray up in there, and I am just waiting on that stuff to take over because I'm going to rock the shit out of it. Just mark your books, folks, because it's happening. So accepting it can be, our past experiences and traumas and wounds and all that stuff, they play into why we accept things the way we do. But there's a lot of joy and a lot of gratitude mixed up in all that yumminess.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tim says right there with y'all, amen, love and accept yourself, and I love it. Elizabeth, love it. Me too. And Absolutely. Mona, loving your hair, Teri. What do you use?
I use two, girl. I will message you. One of them is Garnier and the other's Clairol. I mix them up. Keep it happening.
Well, and I'm a L'Oreal girl, so
Oh,
there
there
you
you go.
go.
We got the market
So
covered.
we do. We have everything covered. But and by the way, him and I will say that the hypnotherapy has been, he said it's going to start affecting you in increments, and it's been really, really amazing. And I don't even know how to, I don't even know how to describe what I experienced, but it's all good. I will say it's all good. And oh, he said gray all the way. Of course you would. Of course you would.
Absolutely.
I said, Steve Ramey is like the prettiest man I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Lord have mercy.
Right.
And Anita,
He's rocking the gray. It's
uh-huh.
amazing. I mean, I'm like, wow. Yeah.
Anita said Devon rocks her gray. Well, you know what? I went almost white early. Everybody in my family goes like, you know what? I figured that's kind of the where God puts me. And Steve put on his smiley face with his sunglasses. You're going to have to put on your sunglasses because you just eat up with cool. Let's see. I'm rocking the beautiful silver. Panty liners are my saver. Now, Barbara, that is an example of better than acceptance. It's the joy in the journey. It's like, hey, whatever, you know. And
Absolutely.
there was a woman that shall remain nameless because I don't know her name, but she had a great trip opportunity to go to Europe, and she told you that she wasn't going with, let's face it, you know, sometimes you get leaky, you know, and so she was going to avoid this trip because of that. And what did you tell her?
I told her to pack the panty liners and go get some Depends. I mean, I mean, when we get into a place where we are foregoing joy, experiences, laughter, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who won't even get into relationships because, stress has, conditioned men with erectile dysfunction, and so therefore it's like, hey, I don't want to get into a relationship because what if, there's a lot of, we age and shit just starts happening, right? I mean, we would not have a car and drive it forever and ever and ever without some things starting to wear on them. And so they wear on us too. We're humans. We're humans with a lot of life experience. And sometimes we have emotionally, mentally, physically been hard on ourselves. And so, I mean, I have arthritis in both my knees from playing wicked athletes when I was in school. My doctor says, hey, you know what? You could lose a few pounds, but I suggest getting a double knee replacement. And I said, well, I appreciate that advice. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not getting a double knee replacement. No. And clearly, it's not a priority for me to lose a whole lot of weight because I hadn't started doing that either. But I love myself the way I am. So, what do I do when I climb that ladder at Christmas to put the Christmas lights on the house? I take care of my knees. You know, you whether it's you're stretching or you're putting on that smell good stuff that you can't walk within 5 miles of somebody, or they're going like, "Ooh, that's an old person that smells stuff on their knees." I mean, you take care of yourself. And so that's acceptance. I accept where I am. Could it be better? Yeah. Could it be worse? Sure. But I'm good right here. And so when we find a place, and that doesn't mean complacency, right? So when we
Right.
find that place of taking that trip and going, you know what, I'm not going to go on that trip because I got bladder stuff going on. And I just, girl, go get you some Depends, pack those babies up and get on that plane. I should preface this was pre-COVID. So,
Yeah.
but enjoy life, because the last thing the last thing we want to do is get into that place when our final, season or chapter and go, gosh, I never did that. And I really wish I had have. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't do it then, but it might not bring as much adventure or excitement or happiness as it would have
Well,
20 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to say that we did have the remark. I think it was Anita that says, "I want a gray like Emmy Lou." I can go back and look at the comments, but I will say that my friend Rique, who does Emmy Lou's hair, has talk about rocking the gray, and he's got a new line of products for doing that. This is not a paid thing. Her shining silver from drab to fab.
Nice.
I've been
Because when I
using it.
said
I've been using
I
it.
did box, I thought Rick A is going to go, "Oh my God." And I could just see his face. But I was like, I can
You know
accept
what?
that.
Rique's a no judgment zone. It's like, do whatever. But I will say that I've been using his Shining Silver products and I really love it. And I was just like, whatever. I just kind of go with, honestly, I don't even mind the smell of the liniment because I use horse liniment and I was borrowing my horses. I have a horse that's gray with white. And so I use this blue shampoo on her.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I'm gonna work. It does work. But I am using Rique's because it's really awesome. Let me take a look. Yeah, you know what, Steve? He's looking for models, and it's really very, very cool. Anita, I have a dog named after Emmy Lou. Tim, who is a dancer and a fine one at that, says knee braces, absorbing junior, lavender, and eucalyptus.
Yes.
Y'all, we are getting real today.
We are.
And that's what it's all about. My hair guy, Daryl, made me promise to forget box color existed. Of course he does.
Well, I'm not there now because I accept that I am going to stick with the box until I go see Rique. Although I do love the design on his bottles. I'm like, those are pretty. I mean, like that's a really nice color combination because immediately I was like, oh, that's pleasant.
It is pleasant.
That could spark some joy for me just having him in my bathroom. And then looking all that much better. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, this Barbara says, I love this from Barbara. Talk about joy in the journey. Bought myself a guitar to learn, so this 74 crazy is going to rock.
Yes.
Learn something new every day.
Yes.
Now, if my friend Phyllis is watching, I know that she jumped out of an airplane for one of her milestone birthdays. Mama not going to be doing that.
Yeah, I'm not there.
No joy in the journey for that. Anita says, wishing my hair was gray like yours, but it's salt and pepper. Oh my gosh. Well, Anita, salt and pepper is gorgeous. Okay. Again, talk to Steve, Rame, Hypno Hottie. Talk to him. Growing old is a privilege. Well, and you know what's important is this is not just a show about aging. It's not. It's about embracing who you are, where you are, what you exhibit every day, be with what you've got to work with at that moment. Let's talk a little bit about how and I know that Steve will probably weigh in on this, the negative talk that destroys our joy in the journey. It's no gratitude beginning. Having the joy begins with a grateful heart. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. And sometimes it can feel with our human experiences that there's just zero gratitude in that journey, depending on what the circumstances are that are being in the present moment. But I will tell you that, and people will argue this, and you know what? I don't have an attachment to where people are and their ability or inability to see that gratitude along their journey. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you this, there's not an experience in my life that I look back on and think, oh my God, if only that had not happened to me. Because we can choose to say, you know what, maybe in the moment it feels a little wacky, but this flip side of it, I feel like things happen for us. For me personally, because I heard what he said last week about don't say, that time, you just go, remember when and you own it. So I was listening last week. I wasn't feeling well, but I was listening. But there is that we can dummy down the gratitude and water it down so that we don't even see it because the brain gets trapped in nothing ever good can come of this.
Fear is talks about that. She's 55, starting to gray around the face, and it's scary at this point. Um, Fear of what's to come is sometimes enters the conversation because we do get scared. Oh my gosh, what is going to happen? Mine was the magic number when my father, who we lost 10 years ago, he was 57 when he had his first brain aneurysm and life changed. And so when I hit 57, I freaked. I, I freaked because I kept, that happens to me, what that happens to me. And then it didn't happen. And then it didn't happen again and it didn't happen again. And I go, you know what? I am in fear every day for something that's, and I'm missing those days by being afraid. And I go, wait a minute, I'm missing out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that fear will be in the brain, that fear is going to be mapped in such a way where once like we can say, this happened and we've got a lot of emotion around it. And then later when we retell that story or we rethink that thought, the body needs to validate that thought with the same emotional tremors, so to speak. And
Right.
so we will muster up more out of our body to get it to respond the way we need it to, so that it's a real fear for us.
True.
I had somebody tell me one time they were fearful of a particular situation. And I said, so, are you excited about it? And they said, I'm not real sure I'm not sure what could be exciting about it. So we unpacked that a little bit and come to find out that fear that they were using and that anxious that they were using was actually excitement that had been cloaked under this heaviness of a fear. And it just shifted the complete mindset. And they were like, well, I'm super stoked about this now.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's great. I just saw Steve posted up something. What did he say?
I'm starting a new experiment to replace negative attention. You can check his page.
Nice.
And he's also looking for volunteers to go through this experiment. It's very cool. So check out Steve's page. And of course, we were talking about Rick Kay, and here he is. I choose to embrace and encourage people to think of aging as evolution.
Absolutely.
In that, and Rick Kay, we were talking about your fantastic products, your Simply Silver products, RickKayBeauty.com. You go to Steve Rame on Facebook. Congrats, you made it. He's talking to you. What else do you get to experience now, knowing what you know?
Right. See,
isn't that good?
Yeah, and that is. It's like once you recognize that sometimes things are not the old paradigm thinking that we've grown with, because you know what, that thinking survived, or it worked as a survival skill set for some time, but then we water down the joy, we water down all that other goodness that can grow from that. And I have people say to me all the time, well, I just want to be happy, I want to experience joy. And I'm like, so give me your definition of it. What is that for you? and they're like, well, I mean, just happiness. And I'm like, but what is your happiness? I think I said this in one of our last launch dates. Somebody could tell me their happiness is playing 18 holes of golf.
Mm-hmm.
That would not push my happy button. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, I did the golf thing. It didn't give me as much joy as riding a horse, so, or brushing a horse, or basically horses give me my joy. And that is a fear place for a lot of people. It is not joy for a lot. James Levere in Pennsylvania says, swim with the current. And sometimes that's the good joy. Swim with the current is perfectly the joy, and float and just let that happen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes for me, I'm not necessarily a current swimmer. I might be a little bit of a troublemaker, and that's okay, because that's my joy place.
That's right. But let me say this, even if golf wasn't, we're talking about the horses and the golf thing and being in the present moment. So unless there's been a traumatic experience, which you would want to work with Steve on to reframe, you could be around you and your horses and just connect with, in both of these cases, golf or around the horses, connect with the nature. Connect with the hawks that you see flying over. Listen to the wind. It might not be your thing. Golf isn't my thing, but it is my choice to find joy in the moment or not. I can find joy in the moment and embrace it, or I can spend a whole lot of time on Instagram bitching about it.
Yeah, Tim had something really interesting. My father has been fearful, such as my grandfather passed his dad at 47. My dad's 66 now. I keep encouraging him and said, when God wants you to come home, he will call you. Fear stops us from living, and we can stop living, literally. And
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, I love everything Elizabeth adds to this conversation is great. Hopefully getting rid of my fears and having a world full of new experiences. Good.
Yes.
And Steve says, I want in the conversation next time. Well, I actually just sent you a link, Steve, if you want to join us. We've got just a couple of minutes left, but we are having such a fun time here. And anytime we're going to talk a little bit before we get out of here about planning, and there's peace in that. And I'm going to use an example of my friend Susan, who knew that she had an expiration date. She already knew what that was generally. So she made the plan for all of her things. She got rid of all of her things. She gave Steve, I sent it to your email, steve@steverame.com. Anyway, she sent me some things of hers. She just literally gave away everything that she had because she knew where she was going. And she said, I want you to take care of my horse.
Yes.
And she sent me her horse. And before she left this planet, the peace in her passing and her journey was so beautiful because she made plans for that. Hey, I'm going to bring Steve on. Is that okay?
Sure.
Hey.
Hi.
Since you were like so part of this conversation, I said we're going to have to just put you all in it.
Perfect timing.
I know.
Right.
You know, we got a few minutes, and now we're talking about planning and the peace in the planning and that kind of thing. But did you want to weigh in on fears and how fears affect people?
We don't have enough time for that. Well, it's those fears are typically there to protect us. I mean, they've got a reason, but a lot of times they're based in old experiences that don't matter anymore. They don't feed who we are right now, but the mind still holds on to them because it still believes it's bringing benefit to us in the moment. And those fears can keep us out of relationships. They can keep us out of opportunities. They can keep us out of all kinds of things. But yeah, it's, unless it's a fear of falling or loud noises, it's something you've learned over the years.
Absolutely.
And there's some basis to that. And, going back and we don't have to know where it started to be able to clear it out. But yeah, fears, it can be debilitating, and it can really ruin a life very quickly. I've seen it happen to too many people. They just give up and, life's over.
Anita says, my dad just turned 92. He just started giving away his items.
Right.
Now that's a rocking dude right there.
Absolutely.
92 is like, I think I'm going to get rid of it. Mona, Tim says, amen. Steve, words of wisdom to live by. Linda, I love Linda. Very important conversations for everyone. Elizabeth, let's talk about my fear. I know things, but I can't put them into practice.
Yeah. It's there is that. Just knowing this stuff doesn't mean you can necessarily do it, because all of our problems are based in emotion. And when we try to approach it from a logical perspective, we're not going to change it. That's why we talked about that on the show last time. I think that I have an issue with traditional kinds of counseling. Because it's approaching emotional problems from a logical idea, trying to change them. And you're not going to talk somebody out of an emotion. It's like, well, my ex-wife, it's okay, calm down, everything's going to be fine. That's what it is. No, it's not going to happen like that. You have to circumvent all of that to be able to approach it from an emotional perspective. But yeah, it's
well, Teri,
try that.
And Teri, you have some real practical application. The reason that Teri and Steve have been very influential for me is because everything's very practical application. Let's talk about, I'll call them my Teri tools. There's some things about getting through fear and getting to do things. And sometimes you just say, just do it. That's just your, what are some of your Teri tools?
Well, I mean, again, like Steve was saying, the fear is based in old experience. And sometimes it's not even something that we've experienced. It's something that we have been afraid of experiencing.
Mm.
I mean, it just sort of locks us in there. So we really do, when we get into that present moment stuff, it is a choice. Now, whether or not we can garner up the courage to, buy the Depends and take the trip, that people, I mean, this, no joke, that's what she said. And I mean, when I told her, just do it. I mean, it's about those core, we're going to have to breathing techniques. I know a lot of people think, oh, they're so overrated, right? Breathing techniques are overrated. I hear that all the time from clients. And I'm like, well, let me just say this. You already breathe. So if you're breathing in a panic mode, then you are dumping in all of the perfect toxins for your body to stay in that panic mode. So breathe in a cadence that works for you. Breathe in a cadence that allows you to pull, to ground yourself. And then they'll say, well, I just want you to tell me how to fix this. And I am compassionately direct. And I say to them, if you're not doing the 101 basics, how are you ever going to get to the other part? Because it's not a quick fix, but it's certainly not a lifelong journey. It takes a commitment to yourself, I posted something this week about, if you've got time to complain and nag and groan about everything that's wrong in your life, then you've got time to find gratitude. You've got time to make a commitment. But the brain gets so conditioned in what's comfortable for it and what's familiar to it. Because grief and pain are not necessarily comfortable, but we can become very uncomfortably comfortable in those spaces.
Can I tell you about the two of you? Both are examples of jumping in and enjoying the moment. Okay, Teri, you are very conscious of time. And when it's time to stop with clients, you say, I've got to go and take care and play with my dog in the backyard. Jack or Homer, or no, I can't remember all your dogs' names. But anyway, I know they need to play. And so you will just cut it off and say, no, I've got to take care of me now. And my dog needs to play. Sucking. I was heading to the chicken lady and I was talking to her about chickens. And Steve, what were you doing? You were planning to go ride, right?
Oh yeah. I'm always planning to go ride. That's why I do what I do, so I can ride more.
I think it's important. I mean, it's important for us to be good stewards of boundaries and our own self-care, especially when we're working with other people. I mean, those boundaries are essential. And, we do have to carve out that time and dedicate to that time. I'm sure any of us working with someone, if someone's in a place where they are unpacking something and they need just a few minutes to button that up, of course. Now that I will say, along the lines of Steve talking about traditional therapies and stuff, that's probably my rub with them, is like it's like your 50-minute mark gets there and they're like, hit the buzzer, I'll see you next week. And it's like, oh geez, okay, well, now what do I do with all this? Because they've unpacked a lot of stuff, and then you're just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna scoot on out the door, but
that's where the problem starts right there, though.
Yeah,
because they walk out, and did we talk about this last week? I think we've talked about it, Devon, but I don't know if we talked about it on the show. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Teri. I just
no. But both of you say the same things, yeah.
Well, when people walk out and all that neurological network is lit up because they've been focused on their anxiety or whatever BS they've been focused on for the past 50 minutes, they walk outside, and because our brains make these associations with our environment, now we're with state equals environment. Now we're starting to get into Pavlovian psychology here, where the conditioned response. Now our brain associates these experiences with this state. And now all of a sudden, instead of having a singular anxiety, now we have a bunch of triggers. And we think we have this generalized anxiety now. And it's still just a bunch of triggers triggering all the same bullshit, really, ultimately.
Right.
Yeah. And
I like the way he talks.
Then you go back
next week and
you do the same bullshit.
I know. See, that's the deal. And Mark says, always help others, and basically that is the ism that will keep
Woo.
on giving to everybody else, but not to you. And okay, Mark, we're gonna have to help you with that, because Mark, that is not the way. Guilty used to be, and now I've learned it's like, bye-bye, Felicia.
Here's the thing, and I love what you just said, Mark. We're going to have to help you with that. Another compassionately direct. Mark's going to have to help himself with that.
Just make the decision.
Yes, absolutely. The willingness, because as long as you have the willingness, the support is there. I mean, it is like no one else is going to, I think Rike is saying that right now. No one else is going to be able to do it for us. And when you live from an experience, we do have that choice. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on what's behind your anxiety, your grief, your whatever. Sometimes it's a little murky to see those things. But if you have a willingness to shift past that, there are so many things out there that you can lean into. Like some people may never have heard of hypnotherapy, or they might think, oh, that's crazy stuff, I'm not doing that. How would you know if you haven't tried it? If you haven't at least educated yourself on it. And that happens, I mean, we have what I call headline folks that'll read the one thing and they're like, well, that's woo-woo. And I'm like,
it's based on stereotypes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get it. I was the same way. I thought this is a bunch of crap too. Until I experienced it. And the impact and change that it's had on my life.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's real for those of you who don't believe in it. Do some research and find me, ask some questions. I'm happy to answer anything.
Well, I will say that these two people are very, very helpful and have been to me. And so much so that I just said, I'm so glad we're going to create a little portal where people can find out about these different ways of doing things, because the idea that you have to stay in a rut and say you got to be sick for the rest of your life. You admitted you're sick, so now you're going to be sick for the rest of your life. And we call BS on that.
Systems. Screw your belief systems. They don't work anymore.
Okay. One last thing. Is Tim a man willing to take care of others, but also taking quality time for yourself, driving the country, horseback riding, a walk, whatever it is for you, go and do you. And speaking of folks, to tell people how they can find you, first, Steve, tell people how they can find you.
Well, you can find me at NashvilleHypnosis.com. You can find me at SteveRame.com. It's still under construction because it's really nice outside and I've been riding a lot.
Good.
You can also find me here on Facebook if you're watching this on Facebook. And I am running an experiment. I mentioned this a while ago. And I was going to take 12 people through it, but I think I'm going to take anybody who wants to go through it with me. So it's good, but it's going to take 3 weeks. Okay. It's going to take you roughly 15 minutes a day, 60 seconds at a time to do this throughout your day. So you can do it anywhere, anytime. It's easy to do. And if you go on this ride with me, it's going to change your entire life. I can promise you that. But you have to be willing to do the work. I can't do it for you. Okay. That's the key. I can teach it to you, but I can't make you learn. That's it.
How many people does it take to change a light bulb? One, but the light bulb has to be willing to change.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes. You tell people how they can find you.
I am also here on Facebook, and I am at teripugh.com, and on Instagram under Transcending Turbulence, the business name.
Well, if you want to get in touch with me, Devon O'Day at Gmail, and wherever you are watching this, click subscribe to these pages, because that's where we're going to be every week at noon on Wednesday. Y'all, we're going to say sayonara because I'm going to go get my second shot. Woo!
Good for you. I'm going to go give a massage.
I know what Steve's going to be doing. We got a pretty day.
I'm working all day. I've got clients after this, so I'm going to change some lives, and then I'm going to go ride later. Hopefully, it doesn't rain on me this evening. So,
Well, you guys have a great day. Thank you all for watching, and remember, join us every week. And we always say, and Teri always does our closer.
We'll wrap it up with increase the peace. Mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional.
Increase the peace.
That's right.